Like March, and like so many stories that have convulsed Washington during Donald Trump's chaotic presidency, the saga of Sam Nunberg came in like a lion and went out like a lamb. On Monday afternoon, in his first interview with NBC's Katie Tur, Nunberg announced that he would defy Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller's subpoena request. He stuck up for his mentor Roger Stone, who may or may not be under investigation for conspiring with WikiLeaks, and he even said that Trump may have done something illegal with Russia during the presidential campaign. As the day progressed, and other networks rushed to get their own watermarked version of the meltdown, Nunberg ranted, called people mean names, and contradicted himself repeatedly. On CNN, Nunberg said Trump may very well have not done anything with Russia. And yet by Tuesday afternoon, a mere day after he had said yes to every cable news booker in America and unleashed the series of flabbergasting and possibly inebriated interviews, published a story under the headline, Ex-Trump aide Sam Nunberg changes tune, says he will cooperate with Mueller probe. As with so much of the drama that swirls around the Russia investigation, the Nunberg satyr play consumed the media class while contributing virtually zero clarity. What we got instead was confusion, desperately craved attention arbitrage, and a momentary ratings sugar high that pulled attention away from other pressing stories unfolding at the very same time: a post-Parkland debate over gun control in the Florida legislature, a historic teachers' strike in West Virginia, a chummy meeting between Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that crystallized how far removed the Palestinians are from any peace process. All of it threw the Washington media's all-consuming cynicism into stark relief. For a few hours, the seams were laid bare for all to see: the booking wars, the mock concern, the commodification of distressed human beings, and the in-on-the-joke knowledge that Nunberg-Palooza would all probably not amount to much in the end. It's all so big when it's happening, so easily forgettable when it's over, Republican strategist Tucker Martin said of media brushfires like the one that started on Monday. I texted him again when the story about Nunberg's cooperation landed on Tuesday afternoon. Well, he responded, there's 24 hours we can't get back. For politics watchers, the Nunberg spectacle ended up feeling kind of gross. There is certainly some schadenfreude seeing Trump's team held accountable, said Tommy Vietor, a former Obama administration official and host of But by the time Nunberg reached his third studio, it felt like rubbernecking an accident, or watching Charlie Sheen's Meltdown, especially if the anchors interviewing him could smell booze on his breath. The ickiness stems from the fact that almost every single blue checkmark person who participated in the conversation knows Nunberg. He's an ever-available source for Trump reporters. Kind of a rube but never really senior enough to have great intel, Nunberg is nevertheless always ready to make mischief with a blind quote. He giddily took credit last year, perhaps dishonestly, for duping into printing a false claim about Chris Christie fetching a McDonald's order for Trump during the campaign. Nunberg likes being in on the Washington whisper circuit that excluded JV outsiders, like him, for so long, and journalists oblige. As with so many status-seeking men and women in Trump world, he craves validation from the very media class that used him for a fleeting ratings grab on Tuesday. The newsworthiness of the interviews was debated in earnest, with most people seeming to agree that it was worth the call to put Nunberg on TV, despite his glaring instability and dubious insider knowledge. The interviewers were good, they asked the right questions, clearly more fluent in the details of the investigation than Nunberg himself. It was entertaining, sure, but the value of the interviews diminished as the day progressed, especially as he started using his newfound platform as a forum for popping off at his enemies. He is legitimate news. He got a subpoena from Mueller, said Greta Van Susteren, the veteran TV anchor who has helmed a desk at CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. But where I draw the line is knowing he is a train wreck. Why does any news organization need to go further and put on the circus? You know why. Everyone in the news business does. Why not report the legitimate news, or even replay tape from earlier interviews, where people get a sense of who he is or is not? This is all about judgment, and people have different judgment. Others dug their heels in on two sides of an argument well I'll likely forget about by Saturday. Mike Allen and Jim Vandehei of Axios called it awful scandal. Pernod took advantage of a troubled Trump flunky, pecked at and picked apart like road on the Russia interstate, in his last gasps of public fame and shame. It was, in their telling, one of the reasons America hates the media. Some members of the sanctimonious press didn't appreciate the sanctimony, and they lashed back on Twitter, suggesting that Nunberg had been a source for Axios in its own Russia reporting. I didn't realize that Axios' new headquarters was a glass house, tweeted MSNBC anchor Stephanie Ruhle. The back and forth was laced with its own petty grievances. Reporters don't like the fact that their editors frequently send them "Do we have this?" emails asking them to confirm Axios scoops. In the opposite corner, there are people who somehow thought the Nunberg moment was worthy of our esteem, which is truly nuts, even in our zany times. Eric Wempel wrote an unlikely article praising the Nunberg interviews as cable news at its best. That was the initial headline at least, until someone at the smartly downgraded it to this: yes, Sam Nunberg sounded unhinged. Yes, that's newsworthy. On that, we can sort of agree. Wempel nevertheless thinks cable did a fine job with Nunberg, and he makes his case this way. What are cable news producers to do? Reject the opportunity to have a transparent, on-the-record interview with a guy who has gotten closer to the Mueller team than they'll ever get? No. They must interview the guy and, in the process, expose whatever erratic behavior he exhibits. Another answer to that question might be, yeah, maybe reject him. I dunno, just putting that out there. If you're running a news organization and getting an on-camera interview with a troubled Trump grifter is your definition of getting close to the Mueller investigation, then maybe you're doing it wrong. CNN had Nunberg on television all day yesterday, but nothing from those interviews produced more news about the Russia investigation than the network's own deep reporting from journalists like Evan Perez, Jim Sciutto, Shimon Prokopech, Pamela Brown. There's not really a right or a wrong in the debate over Nunberg's seppuku act. Was it cable news at its best? Not really. Was it an unseemingly active exploitation? Yes, sort of. Does Trump surround himself with the best and most serious people, as he likes to say? No. But is there any way it would have unfolded differently? Not at all. The Nunberg show was newsworthy, but not for any of the high-minded reasons journalists claim. We in the media can pretend that the term newsworthy is some kind of hallowed verdict that can only be dispensed by people who have training in journalism. The reality is more pedestrian. The only definition of what's newsworthy in our staccato-burst political world is simply, what's new. Sometimes what's new might be sophisticated, complicated, real, momentous. Sometimes what's new is steel and aluminum tariffs. Sometimes what's new is a ghastly school shooting in Florida. Sometimes what's new is a terrorist. But sometimes what's new is just a guy in the dumps who got loaded and called a bunch of thirsty cable news bookers who are also looking for their next fix. Good luck, America.